The state of Nigeria's housing sector is deteriorating, with a widening gap between housing demand and supply, exacerbating affordability and accessibility challenges for millions of citizens. In present-day Nigeria, unfortunately, many Nigerians face significant challenges in accessing affordable housing, with a substantial proportion struggling to purchase even a one-bedroom apartment due to rising costs of building materials, interest rates, limited access to mortgage financing, and a whole lot. Welcome to Inside the Real Estate and Housing TV Africa. I am Maimuna Bagudu. Today we're honored to have a renowned expert in the field of housing and urban development to share his insight and perspectives on the state of the nation's housing sector. We're delighted to have Professor Timothy Nubi, founder and president, Ideal Habitat Initiatives and the University of Lagos. You're highly welcome, Professor Nubi. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're so delighted to have you.
I'm happy being here. I'm happy coming here.
Thank you so much. So let me just start off with really what is the true definition of affordable housing?
Yeah, that's a good place to. That's a good way of starting this short discourse because we've had. Can we really have affordable housing in Nigeria? As long as we don't have affordable cement, there is no affordable reinforcement, iron, there is no affordable blocks, so you can't have affordable housing. We've had so many things, and so many of us are saying that affordable housing is when you spend 30%, not more than 30% of your income on housing. That's United Nations Habitat expectation. Yeah, all these are good. And I kept being worried. My worry is that we really need to go back to the basis of what is affordable housing. It's right time you begin to define it and really understand the concept, the working of affordable housing market. What makes a housing to be affordable? So if we want to drive affordability, we can focus on cost reduction. And cost is actually high for the factors I've given and some other factors. Cost of funding, the purchase of the materials, and the building process itself is high. Through the real estate value chain, the cost is high. Cost of material is high, cost of land is high, time spent on it is high, so many things about it. Approval process, getting approval, the amount to pay for the CFO, for the building plan approval, all these things are high. So when you pull everything together, the cost is high. How do we now do? What do? We begin to look at substitute for this thing. And I told them in a gathering a few days ago that, look, one thing that gives me so much courage and comfort is that with the refinery of our oil, we no longer export crude. Once Dangote is on ground, refining the crude oil, the Port Harcourt and all these refineries, once they are working, it's not only petroleum that is byproduct. PVC, asphalt, they are byproducts of petroleum, crude oil refinery. So, by the time we begin to produce PVC can replace cement, can replace almost 60% of cement. When you look at this place now, we can use PVC for the partitioning, PVC for the doors, PVC for the windows, so PVC for the ceilings. So the cement component will just be the surrounding walls. So immediately we begin to look at alternative local materials that will substitute the import materials, then we can bring down costs. Then we look at the process of construction, the time it takes. And I said that many researchers, we just focus on cost of material. We're not looking at the process itself. When we look at the process, how long does it take us to build? If you can reduce the construction time we can also, because cost of labor is huge. It's almost 30 to 40% of cost of construction. So if the labor requirement is lower through production, through mass production, using through industrialization, by the time we introduce plant and machinery to the construction, then we begin to make progress in that direction. So there are these arrays of things we can do to really reduce the cost, because the cost is high. I was once in the board of Habitat for Humanity, and we are looking at construction across the countries where they were operating. I found out that as at that time, 2-bedroom flats in Nigeria cost us $12,000, whereas in Israel it was $2,000. So we were questioning ourselves, why is our cost of construction this high? So we, as a country, we focus on cost of construction. Just like when computer came, it was my first set of computer plus the printer, I bought it about 680,000, and I have to put in a room and lock it up. Inside the room, in the office, we have to lock it up and put burglar proof there. You see, but today, that computer you can get for 10,000, 20,000. So the cost came down through mass production. So the cost came down. So if you can reduce the cost, we can work on affordability. But if we are not, as we are doing that, we know that we should not look at our solution through increase in income, because it has not worked in the country. Minimum wage was 18,000. It was increased to 30,000. For about 3 or 5 years or 6 years, only 6 states in the country were able to increase the minimum wage. Now it's 70,000, and many state governors say they could not. So let's just look at the income for now as no-go area for this, our solution to affordable housing. We now look at terms of payment, which is the third factor. So, like I said, if this telephone cost remain 50,000, and my income remain 50,000, and I said I cannot afford it. But if this telephone now, if they say pay for it for 2 years, I can afford it. The same thing, that's what mortgage does. So the house is 20 million, and I can't afford it with my current salary. The cost is that static at that 20 million. But if you tell me that pay for it for 20 years, affordability comes in. Affordability comes in. And I kept on giving the example of Multilink. When Multilink came, they were selling Multilink at the, it was 180,000 to buy Multilink telephone, this first set of wireless telephone in Nigeria. When it came, they were selling it at 180,000. So many people could not buy it. I couldn't buy it. But immediately they said, pay 50,000 and pay 10,000 for 18 months. What happened? 50,000 plus 18 months, 10,000. It became 230,000. More expensive than the cash and carry of 180. The cost actually increased. But because you have long term to pay for it, 10,000 every month, the affordability came in and the queue was long. I was able to buy. I paid 50,000. If the houses remain the same cost and we introduce mortgage, whereby these first home owners, they have 30 years, 25 years to pay back, affordability naturally setting. So affordability, in a nutshell, is not that this product, it was 10,000 before. People could not afford it. Now it's even increasing. So there is no affordable housing in Nigeria. No, we have to look at those 3 factors and make sure that we work on them. If we cannot increase the salary to a certain level that will bring about affordability, let us focus on how do we reduce cost of construction in this country? How do we make sure that a first-time buyer has access to mortgage? If I'm paying 20 million for 25, 30 years, affordability naturally sets in. And I want to tell you with all sincerity that what Nigerians pay as rent today. Because an average 3-bedroom flat in Lagos today now, anywhere, is about 2 million. 1.5 million, 2 million. And I'm saying that when you pay 1.5 for 2-bedroom flat for 10 years, that's 15 million. For 20 years, that's 30 million. For 25 years, you know what we are talking about. So Nigerians are already paying what is higher than mortgage. So that they will not be able to pay the mortgage does not come in. They are already paying what is higher than mortgage. They are paying rent on a house that will never become their own. So that's why the variance of rent to buy scheme becomes handy.
Yeah.
That these people are already paying so high rent that immediately you convert their rent to mortgage, at a given point in time, the house becomes yours. Because you'll be staircasing until you become the owner of the house. That is affordability. So we should just focus in on one factor. We look at each time we say that there can never be affordable housing. What we are saying is that as long as our income is this low, and as long as the cost of the houses is this high, we will never have affordable housing. But by the time we work on the 3 factors and we synchronize the process, affordability, and that is why what we are saying is not fiction. What we are saying is not rocket science. You leave university in UK, in America, in Dubai today, you start working for 6 months. Once you are able to raise your deposit, you pick a mortgage. You start working at the age of 25, 30. You have working life of 25 years, 30 years. You pick 30 years mortgage. They are there. What you are paying back is lower than your rent.
So what do you think really is the problem here in Nigeria? Because when you look at other developed countries, you know,
Yes.
they have good mortgage systems, good mortgage financing in place for their citizens to be able to, you know, get their own homes. But in Nigeria, the system is almost impossible. The processes are rigorous. The interest rate is there staring at you.
Yeah.
So what really is the problem?
It's a long story, which I believe that probably one will have to come back here because we have the history of mortgage banking in Nigeria. My PhD was on effectiveness of mortgage banking in Nigeria. This was a research for 7 years to look at why did mortgage bank fail. So that's what I studied for 7 years for my PhD. So the reports are there. What we needed to do when there were mortgage system put in place and there were no appropriate law, no foreclosure law. So it won't, when you can't introduce a system without enabling, backing it up with enabling law that will make it work. Because our problem is historical, our problems are multidimensional, but they were not problems that we could not resolve. So the issue of mortgage is what you have to go back to. When you can't practice mortgage where there is no product. The word mortgage is not for you to get to a primary mortgage bank, pick a loan to build a new building, to lay the foundation and build. If you do that, what we are saying is that when you do that, what you are doing is that I always tell my students, it's not a mortgage you've gotten, you've got building finance loan. Because immediately you use the word mortgage, there must be houses that are built. Second day or the second week of getting your mortgage, of buying that house, you move to that house. But unfortunately, the first set of mortgage banks that were registered, they were not creating mortgage because there were no houses. That was why in the wisdom of Baba Bogunje, they said that FMBN should support the developer by giving asset development loan so that developers could build houses that people could buy. You don't use mortgage loan to build. You use mortgage loan to buy.
Right.
So in a situation, in a country where there are no housing stock, you can't be talking mortgage. You can't be talking mortgage because somebody picks a mortgage loan and he lays the foundation to build the house for 1 year. You are still paying rent in your current accommodation. And if you default in paying for 3 months, your mortgage should be foreclosed. You see? And so this person is paying rent, is paying back the mortgage. Because they don't wait for you until you finish your house before begin to repay back. So, immediately you default, the government want to, the bank want to foreclose. There are a lot of legal issues around that. So, we have to sit down to grow. And I kept on saying one of the other things that made mortgage difficult was the issue of bundling and unbundling, which is in itself a legal issue. Because in this country today, it's the primary mortgage bank that does both the lending and the servicing. It's not been unbundled. We don't have mortgage brokers as we have insurance brokers. That if you get an insurance for your car today in Lagos, you don't need to come to Lagos to renew your car insurance, something, whatever. You can go to the mortgage brokers in Ijebu-Ode, in Shaki, in Yanya. They are mortgage brokers they are brokers to mortgage to insurance companies. But we don't have such. So it's still the same mortgage bank that you get to pick the loan that you return to every month to pay back, to service the loan. It doesn't work that way. So there are a whole lot of things that we just need to sit and see what makes 10 factors were responsible for running that must be in place before you can get a robust mortgage system in any country. We don't have them. The underwriting, the valuation, the law, the enabling law. So many things are, but they are things that are not insurmountable. They are problems that we cannot work around and resolve. So we can really work and resolve them.
Professor Nubi, as an expert in the housing sector, we'd love to hear your overview on the current state of housing in Nigeria.
Yeah. The current is all we are saying since they are the part of the current state of housing in Nigeria. And you see, I'm also an expert in construction. When you build a house and you have a wrong foundation, a failed foundation, and you see the house tilt, or you see cracks all over, you see structural failure, you can pull it down, or you can do underpinning to salvage, if that could really salvage it. You see, I kept saying that you need to do the needful before you get results. Like we have talked about mortgage. We have words, friends, children that were living in other parts of the world, that when they finish school, what they will say is that, Dad, I want to buy a house. A young school leaver, a first-time home owner, will tell you, I want to buy a house. There's a mortgage culture. Mortgage is a powerful weapon. We just have to grow it. We just have to develop it. You see, you don't solve a problem. You don't solve a problem on the surface without addressing the underlying, the structure. You need to build the structure. So we don't have the structure. A young leaver in Nigeria, school leavers in Nigeria, after working for about 5-6 years, will say, I want to build a house. His parents have to look for a land. They have to get the design. It's the rich person, celebrities, that build houses in those climb, people like Michael Jackson,
Yeah.
you need to get to a level of wealth before you say, I want to build a house. Then you come up with your design. You understand what I'm saying? So, but here is the reverse. In a poor country, the poor,
Wants to
they
build.
build. The rich, they buy. In Nigeria, the rich, they buy.
Reverse is the case.
Reverse is the case.
Okay, so
it can work. We have to really resolve those things. That's the state. Until we begin to put all those little things, the desire, the dream of, we still keep on lamenting. But the most important thing is to do the needful. And let me round up with this analogy. An African leader got to US. An African got to US and he saw a fast-moving train. And he loved it. Silk, beautiful. And he told his host, how much is this train? I like it. And they said, about $50 million. I said, wow, so good. Wrote a check. Put it in the container. Brought it to Africa. They set it on a mud road. Would the train work?
It will never work.
What would make the train work?
It has to be on a real track.
You have to build it. Can you buy the track?
You have to build.
You have to build it.
Yes.
So the track upon which affordable housing could rest and run, we need to build it. We need to build it. Every other discussion is buying train and in container. It will die in the warehouse until we build the track. Until we build the track is this infrastructure, physical infrastructure, fiscal infrastructure, legal infrastructure. They have to be in place. The infrastructure that the track that this affordable housing needs, it can't run on its own. We must take time to build the physical infrastructure, the road, the water, the sewer, the street light, the telecommunication, IT, legal infrastructure. We need to build the legal infrastructure, the law, enabling laws. We need to build the fiscal infrastructure, the banking industry, the financial industry, the mortgage bank, the secondary bank, the working of the capital, real estate, housing. Housing is not a money market issue. You can't go to commercial bank to pick loan. You can't pick a short-term loan to fund a long-term investment. Different part of the world, they use funding from the capital market to fund housing. You don't go to bank and take funding at the rate of 27-32%
That's what outrageous.
to fund housing. It doesn't work. So through the value chain, we need to develop the primary mortgage bank. We need to develop the secondary mortgage. And there were attempts in the past to do this. The good news is that we were not where we were 10, 20 years ago.
Sure.
Well, there was no NMRC, there was no family homes, there was no reform mortgage bank. We were not where we ought to be. But I want to say that with my experience in the practice, we were not where we were. But for us as a nation, you can't say you want to solve a problem without building the track. But what we have been doing in seminars and conferences, we are debating how to buy the train without building the track. That's the problem. That's the problem.
A very big eye opener there. You've been an advocate for, a good number of years,
Yes.
advocating for affordable housing and what have you. Yeah. And it's a dream for you to see that Nigerians have access to affordable housing, yeah, which is one thing that has, put you on the map. Yeah. In the past, you made mention of certain interventions that were created, the Family Homes Fund, the the Federal Housing Authority, the Federal Mortgage Bank, and currently now we have MOFI. Now, what kind of intervention are you calling for?
Yes, because people don't really understand this sector. Like we said, that's why when a new government comes, they want to try another thing. But I've always been an advocate of the fact that you don't kill a child because that child is not performing and say, let's give birth to a new one. And that's what we have been doing. Or we abandon that child. Every government wants to abandon and say, this is my project. So, and that's why we're not getting results. If as an institution, as a government, because government is continuum, if you have established institutions that we are paying the MD, we are paying general managers, and they are not performing satisfactorily, then what we need to do is to commission research. And that's the disconnect between the research world and, because when you get to the hospital and you said, you are not one, you report ill to the doctor will take you through
of course.
several tests, yes, to know what was wrong. You don't say, go and die, I will give back to a new child. This one is always sick. But that's what we're doing. Run the test. Let's research into why is this institution not working well? What are we not doing right that is leading to this failure? That's not making us to meet our expectation. But what we see in this country is that every 10 years, there are new institutions coming, saying that these ones are not performing. And it's not that you are scrapping them. They are there. They are collecting salary. They are paying rent.
And, and from all indications, they are still, going to do what your own new initiative will also do.
So that's why I've been begging for many years that we have institutions that let us diagnose them. Let us see what they were not doing rightly. You know what I'm saying? Let's see what they are not doing rightly. Let's look at their constraints and let's help, rather than giving birth to new ones. They did that in my state many years ago. There was OPIC. There was a government that introduced Gateway Company. 2 parallel companies working the same thing. And the 2 of them eventually no success. Between the toll gate of Lagos and Ibadan today, or in Sagam Interchange, should have been a beautiful modern city. But today, look at Mowe, look at Ibafo. All because someone came on board and just said, okay, I can't work with Topic. Introduce Gateway. And that's what each government, when you come, if you have the courage to sack non-performing staff,
of course,
if you want to allow them to go through training, do training, inject new blood into the system so that they will deliver. But this one is not working. Yoruba people say that, you say this firewood is not burning, you remove. This one is not burning, you remove. You have nothing to cook with. And that's what we have been doing. That's what we have been doing.
Thank you so much, Professor Nubi, for sharing your thoughts on that. We just have one question to ask you, but first we need to go on a short break. We'll be back shortly after this break. Stay with us.
When the city is getting too loud, you need a home. Home is love, peace, and tranquility. Home is Housing TV Africa. Housing TV Africa, your first in housing news.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is the program Inside the Real Estate and Housing TV Africa. Still in the studio with Professor Timothy Nubi, and we're discussing the nation's current housing issues. So quickly, I'll just run this through you. of course, we always talk about government intervention and what have you, but I always say it, there is nothing we can do in this country if we don't, bring the government in. So how can the government strengthen the policy and regulatory environment to support the development of affordable and sustainable housing options?
Yes, government is the father of every one of us.
Yeah.
And if in my family today, I have the responsibility of housing them and giving them food to a certain age. So I don't belong to the school of thought that government has no business in housing. Government is the ABC of housing. Because when you look at the value chain, the land in all the states in the federation is the governor of each state that is owning the land in trust for the people. So as long as the government has such power over land and the land administration system of the country, then we can't say we don't need government. We need government. Immediately you leave land, the next in the value chain is title. And they also told us that without title, we are all sitting on dead capital. And as long as we don't work on our title, this nation is not moved anywhere. Because all our assets are dead capital. We have dead capital, we don't have assets. So the title is there, it's within the domain of government. Government is holding the land in trust for the people. The titling system is in their hand. Next to title is horizontal development, the infrastructure provision is government. The primary roads, water projects, lawma, cleaning the streets, these are responsibilities of government, and these are things that constitute. Then the law that will establish mortgage bank and financial institutions run the capital market is with government. So you can't say either to give incentive to developers like this government is doing now. They want to develop building materials, manufacturing hubs. It's government. It's government. Today, we have people coming from different parts of the world to employ our graduates, our doctors, our nurses. Today, we have private university. But for so many years, it's government that ran university. But today, in the last 10, 15 years, private sector came in after government have set a standard. So government, why people voted anyone to government is to provide these things. So we can't say we don't need government. We need government. We need government. The public will only participate. The government will create enabling environment for the private sector to do well in their business. Like we are talking about this housing stock, that without housing stock, we can never have mortgage. And we said the government should not be involved in direct construction. Let them work with, which this government is doing. Let them participate with private sector to develop these houses en masse. And once we create the stock, then we'll be able to. And I want to say the intervention. I don't want to finish this interview without saying that, look, if you can own a new dress, at least you can keep the one you have, so that we don't go naked or wear rag on the street. The same thing, we have housing deficit. This deficit is not that 100 million Nigerians are sleeping under the bridges or on streets. No. It's that 80% of this housing deficit, what you call as housing deficit, they were houses that are not standard houses. They are substandard houses. So what we are saying, the low hanging, is that instead of focusing on new houses that we are saying building materials is expensive, if we have substandard houses that is already resting on the particular land, we don't need land again for rehabilitating such houses. They have drainage that is blocked, we can quickly fix. They have roads already, we can quickly resurface. So if we should focus, it has been my position or proposal to this government since 2015 that the next 2 decades should be devoted into urban regeneration. What we have that are not standard. And unfortunately, most of these slums, they are on prime top properties.
Very.
Let us upgrade them. Let us upgrade them. So let's start with that. Those are the low hanging. When you talk of upgrading, you are not talking of land acquisition. And there are people already there. These houses, new houses, we build the new houses, we are looking for buyers to come and buy. Whether people are already living somewhere, where they are living, institute, let us upgrade them through urban regeneration. That is key. Let us focus on research. Let us focus on research. Let our decisions be driven by research. Let us not just embark on projects for political reason. You understand what I'm saying? Let us have critical analysis. Let us be more intentional. Let us not do try and error. Where we have research centers, we have professors, we have researchers all over the country that could tell us that, look, this direction, these are the obstacles, these are the ways you can overcome them. Let every sector, let's have integrated system where research is critical. It's research, because the 21st century economy is driven by two factors: manufacturing, and it's a knowledge economy, and manufacturing. We have to put money on knowledge, and it's through research, capacity building, making us to do what we are doing better. So these are areas of intervention and support that we can put our efforts. Let's do capacity building for existing staff of all our government agencies and institutions. These people that are operating throughout the value chain, the laborers, the labor force, that the skill and unskilled in this value chain, let us see how we can scale up their capacity.
Thank you so much, Professor Nubi. We know you're in a hurry. Thank you so much for joining us today on the program Inside the Real Estate. But then before you go, the African International Housing Show 2025 is coming up, and we're super excited about this. So would love to hear from you. What are your expectations? And how do you feel about the good news?
Yeah, it's, you know, every July is, funny enough, I was born in July.
Oh,
so when I think of my birthday, I think of the housing show. It's been a blessing. It's been a blessing. Like I said, we might have not gotten to where we desire to be, but we are not where we were. And we believe that if the tree is big and the cutlass we're using to cut is even blunted, if we keep cutting, that's what we're doing in the housing show. We keep cutting. And I know that the tree will come down. As long as there is no end to the discussion, to interrogating it, we'll get it right. And we are getting closer. We are getting closer. We are human beings, and we have a short lifespan. So we have expectation that most of these things should be resolved within our time. But let's just hope that we see the better Nigeria and better housing industry that we all desire. But for the housing show, it's been a blessing. Last year was a wow, and I know this year will be better. So we can't wait to see what the fair has in store for the country in solving the housing problem, bringing experts together, and making sure that we move the sector forward. So this is a good job you've been doing here, and I believe that you keep the good work up.
Thank you, sir. It's been an exciting conversation with our guest, Professor Timothy Nubi. I have learned a lot, and I know you all have learned a lot, particularly the true definition of affordable housing. On this note, we call it a wrap on today's episode of the program Inside the Real Estate. Thank you so much for watching. You can watch this episode and subsequent episodes by subscribing to our YouTube channel, Housing TV Africa. You can also follow Housing TV Africa on all social media platforms. I am Imuna Bagudo. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.